2:20 through 22 says, lots of Jews. Now, in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and silver, but also of wood and clay. Some are for honorable use, and some are for dishonorable. Therefore, if anyone cleanses himself from what is dishonorable, he will be a vessel for honorable use, set apart as holy. And he's useful to the master of the house, ready for every good work. So, because that's true, therefore, flee youthful passions and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart. This is what the author is telling this guy, Timothy. He's saying, you ever been to someone's house and noticed that sometimes they have dirty dishes, and sometimes they have clean dishes, right? And he says, dishes are only useful if they've been cleansed. Right? So if you go to your friend's house and ask for a drink, they reach to the very bottom of their dirty sink and they pull something out that has like coffee grounds in it and like old milk and like meat juice from your mom making chicken or whatever on it. They're like, just pour some water in there. Here you go. Like, thanks. You just put it off the side and like, I want to wash my hands. Like, it's gross. You can't. It's not useful. It's dirty. Now, if they pulled the same cup out of the bottom of the sink and then they went to the faucet and they put soap on it and they got the little scrubby thing you use for dishes and they scrubbed it really good and washed it off and rinsed it off and were like, hey, I got the towel and wiped down. Like, it's clean. Now I'll get you some water. It's kind of weird. Like, don't you have any clean dishes? But at least I would use it because now it's actually clean. It's become useful. Now, what if they took that same nasty, grimy cup and they just set it on a shelf somewhere and they're like, I'm not going to let anything dirty touch this. Like, I'm going to put it with the clean cups and we're just going to keep away all the dirty stuff. And next year you come back and you're like, hey, can I have a drink? You're like, yes, I've saved this cup for you. Here it is. Have a drink. And then you're like, no, it's still gross. It's not useful unless you clean it. You can't just sit it aside and it becomes like, oh, now it's suddenly clean. Like, you need to actually clean it. You need to purify it before it becomes useful. If you have something that's impure and dirty, you have to cleanse it before it becomes useful. So, here's going to be my 3 points tonight. You don't need to write them down yet because I'll talk to them in turn. But 1, purity isn't only about avoiding sin. 2, purity is also about pursuing holiness. And 3, purity is only possible through Christ. So, in verse 22, he says, after the whole cup analogy, he says, so you should flee youthful passions. And a lot of people are happy to stop there. Like, make sure you don't do bad things. The whole goal of purity is to not do bad things. But there's another, like some words right after that. It says, so flee youthful passions and pursue purity. So, being pure is not only about avoiding sin. And have you ever heard this phrase? And this is why I titled this series. I titled it Pursuing Your Purity, right? And the reason is because maybe you've heard this phrase called don't lose your purity, right? And sometimes people talk about it like, hey, just make sure you hang out and you don't lose your purity. Hold on to your purity. I don't like that phrase a whole lot. And here's why. Because it acts like purity is something that you already have and you simply need to hold on to. And just keep it. Like, don't give it away. Don't let someone take it. Like, hold on to your purity. That's against everything the Bible teaches us about what we know about sin. Right? The Bible doesn't teach you that you're born pure and then later on, like, stuff ruins you and you become impure. The Bible actually teaches you that you're born sinful and you desire sinful things. You're actually born impure. And you're going to stay impure unless someone changes you. Unless God reaches in and changes your life and makes you pure. That's how the Bible talks about it. So don't lose your purity holding on to it. You're not pure already, right? It's not something that's outside of you that's trying to get into your heart. Like, your heart is filled with impurity. And it's trying to find ways to get out, right? And you may not realize this yet. And I'll admit, like, I'm going to sound like such an old guy right now. But you may not realize this yet, that purity is a difficult thing to fight for, and impurity is a difficult thing to fight against. Right now, you're like, I don't really care. I'm not interested in girls or boys or whatever. Like, stay away from me. They're gross. But as you get older, what's going to happen is you're going to start finding out that your heart is against you. Right? You're going to say, oh, purity is a piece of cake. Just don't do bad stuff. I remember a specific conversation I had with my cousin when she's like 6 years older than me or so, and she's like, man, purity is so hard. Like, I'm dating this guy, and it's just a real struggle. And I was like 12 at the time, and I was thinking like, why? Just don't do something bad. That's all. That's so easy. How is it a struggle? right? I didn't get it, which maybe where some of you are. But trust me, when you get older, you're going to find out that your heart is actually against you. And the things that seem so simple, like, oh, obviously don't look at that thing. Obviously don't do that. I'm not even interested in desire. Suddenly your heart is desiring those things. And your heart says, I want to look at that thing that's wrong. Or I want to do this thing that I know I ought not do. And your heart is attacking you. And you're like, well, what's going on? I guess that I'm not pure. I'm impure. Like, it's true. What Shane said is true. I have an impure heart, and now it's trying to find its way out in all these different ways, right? And so we get this idea that, like, we're born pure. We just have to kind of hold on to it. And that's not true. Phil, can I get you help for that? Can you come up here? I just need you to fill my hands up with some water. I can't do it by myself. So just, oh, that's perfect. All right, one more. Now it's perfect. All right, so you have to like, oh, I've got purity, and oh man, it's leaking. I gotta hold on to it. Like, I hope I don't mess up and lose my purity, and like, oh, maybe I date someone, like, oh, this is not going well. I hope I get to marriage. Oh, good, marriage is here. Like, yeah, I made it. I had purity. I almost lost it for a minute there. This was a crazy journey. But then I got to marriage, and like, I had a little left. A little bit made it. A few, right? It sounds so dumb when you say it out loud, but that's the view of purity I had, right? In middle school, in high school, in college, that like, I really just got to hold on to it as much as I can. And then one day I'll get married, and then it'll all be okay, and I won't have to worry about it anymore. And if you ask anyone in this room who's married, they'd be like, no, actually you still have to pursue purity after you're married. But I acted like this was how I was going to be saved from my battle with purity. I just had to try real hard to get there. This is not at all how the Bible describes it. Right? That's not the goal of purity, is to hold on to what you have as long as you can, and just try your best not to spill any out, and then make it to marriage, and you're all finished. Right? So if purity isn't only about avoiding sin and trying not to spill, then what is it? What is it about then? Well, how about point number 2? It didn't make a sound. I did. All right. Purity is also about pursuing righteousness, right? So let's look at verse 22 again. It says, flee youthful passions. That's part of it. But also pursue righteousness. And there's other list of things here that it tells you to pursue. You're supposed to actively be doing something, going forward to do something. Now, I don't know what message they give you in school or stuff about sex, if you've had that course or whatever. But you might be hearing something from other Christians, or maybe your parents or other people, and they say things a lot like, hey, you need to wait to have sex until you're married. That's what you have to do. And let me give you a little history of how people have talked about that in the church for a while. Back in like the 80s and 90s, it was really popular to say, you need to wait until you're married, because if you don't, like, you could get pregnant, or you could get someone pregnant, and that's really going to derail your life. Or, even worse, you could get a disease, right? Which is true. And so they're like, there's all these bad things that could happen to you if you don't wait, so you need to wait. And I think people realize, like in the 2000s and the 2010s and stuff, like, it's not necessarily a good approach, because telling everyone essentially that sex is bad. Which is not, because God created about it. We'll talk about that on week 3. But they're saying, let's not do this, scare people approach. Let's change it up a little bit. You should wait until you're married, because if you do, a lot of good stuff will happen, right? Like, you'll have a better marriage, and they pull out like statistics and say you're less likely to get divorced. You have a healthier marriage, and it'll be more exciting or whatever, and your life will be much more romantic. And then all the positive things as to why you should wait. And so you should wait until marriage, because good things will happen. Now, I don't really care for either of those approaches, and let me tell you why. It's because the goal they give you, the mission that you're supposed to accomplish in both of those is, here's your job. I want you to wait. Just find somewhere, sit down, hold your purity water, hope it doesn't leak out, and just wait. Like, that's your goal. That's hard to do, right? Have you ever been told to just stay somewhere and wait? You're like, honestly, I would love to do anything. Give me anything to do other than just sitting here and waiting. But what if, instead of just being told, look, sit down and wait, what if you had a mission, right? What if God didn't say, just sit there and do nothing, but he said, you should actively be pursuing something and then going to get something and accomplishing a thing. That's why, and hear me carefully how I talk about this, the Bible nowhere says the words, quote, wait until you're married to have sex. It doesn't say those words. But the Bible over and over tells you, be pure, pursue purity, chase after righteousness, chase after holiness. God's plan isn't just sit there and do nothing. His plan is there's things that I want you to accomplish. You need to go out there and do them. Like pursue these things actively. Don't just sit and wait. Anyone here play soccer? Oh, good. No one played in high school. Anyone here ever played a game of soccer or understand the rules of soccer a little bit? Good. Okay. So this is not a soccer ball. It's a kickball. But in soccer, there are boundaries. You are not supposed to go out of bounds where the ball goes to the other team. Now, saying the goal of your purity is to simply wait until you're married is like telling somebody, hey, you know how to win a soccer game? Just keep the ball in bounds. Don't go out of bounds. Right? So there you go, up to the boundary line. You've got the soccer ball, and you're like, hey, the ball's in bounds. We must be winning, right? I'm winning the game. I'm keeping it in bounds. I'm doing great. But then you stay here long enough on the sideline, and you start to ask really stupid questions, right? You start to take the ball, and you're like, is this out of bounds? Can I do that? Is it still okay, right? How far can the ball go across the line before it's technically out of bounds? Right? I don't want to cross the line for sure, but I want to get really close. Can I get really close to the line? And there's dumb questions that people end up asking about purity when they think their only goal is to wait until marriage. They start saying, well, what about this other stuff? Does this count? Can I do this? How far is too far? Right? Can I do these other things? And they wonder how close they get to the line. Those are stupid questions. Right, I'll just say that. Because that's not how you win the game of soccer. You win the game of soccer by taking the ball and going on offense and attacking the net, right? Get the ball in the back of the net, you win. That's how you beat the other team. It's not, now, if you want to win, you need to keep the ball in bounds. If you keep kicking out of bounds, you're not going to win. But that's not the goal, right? The goal is to go that way. To be on offense, to do something, not just to sit around and wait. And when we treat our purity like our job is to just sit here and wait, we're not going to win. Because what you forget is there's an enemy attacking you. There's another team that wants you to mess up. Right? You stay here by the sideline, the enemy's like, let's see how we can get this ball out. Let's steal it. Let's take it away. Right? Or you find, again, as I said, your own heart fights against you. And you start doing dumb stuff, and you're like, wow, I was by myself. Why did I just throw the ball over the line? That was foolish, right? Your heart betrayed you. But if you're actively pursuing something, you're going somewhere, then that's how you're going to win the game, by actively moving. All right, now remember, I'm not saying that boundaries don't matter. We're actually going to talk about boundaries next week. But they're not the focus of the entire game, right? Winning is. So you might say, I don't see what's so tough about this whole purity thing. I don't really get it yet because I'm still a little bit younger. But what if I believe you, Shane? It sounds like it's going to be hard. How can I overcome this thing when the future comes that it's difficult for me? Well, that's point number 3. Purity is only possible through Jesus Christ. That's the only way you'll become pure. Right? Where's my filthy water bottle? If I try to use dirty water to clean this one, you can't clean a dirty bottle with dirty water and they're just going to stay dirty. You need something that's pure, something outside of it that can wash it. The Bible describes Jesus this way. Ephesians 5 reads like this. Husbands, love your wives, and then it describes how Christ loved the church. Right? This is what Jesus is doing for his own people. He gave himself up for the church that he might sanctify her. That's just a fancy word for make her holy, make his people holy. Having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot, without wrinkle, or any such thing, that she might be holy. You could use the word pure there, and without blemish. Like this is God's goal for you. And Jesus Christ says he's going to be the one responsible for cleansing you and washing you. Another verse, 1 John 1:9. John says, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. That's what Jesus does. He's in the business of cleansing people who are impure. So every one of us is impure. All of us, like I said, you start your life looking like this, not starting your life looking like this, right? You start off being sinful and impure. How do I get this hair out of here? How do I go about becoming cleansed and pure, right? Well, what if there was a source I could go to, somewhere that was clean, that would not only take all of the filthiness out of my heart, but it would actually replace it with pure water, right? And I could be washed over and over again by someone who's pure. and be cleansed by them instead of being filthy. Now, it might take several times for you to return to Jesus over and over. You don't become perfectly pure the first time you encounter him. But by returning to the source over and over again, Jesus Christ can purify anything that's filthy or dirty, right? And so that might be you. You're impure. You're like, all right, Shane, I want to become pure. What do you mean by like going to the source? How do I practically do that? What does that look like in my life? Well, let me give you a few examples here. First, confess your impurity to someone. Let someone know, like, hey, this is the areas of my life that I've noticed where I'm not pure, right? I've thought these things, I've desired these things, I've done these things, looked these, whatever. I'm not gonna let the dirt hide in the corner somewhere and act like it's gonna get cleaned that way. You have to bring it out and expose it to someone and say, look, I need your help cleaning this. This is what Proverbs 28:13 says. Whoever conceals his transgressions, or that means like hides his sins, is not going to prosper. But the one who confesses and forsakes, or that means leaves them behind, that person's going to obtain mercy. The person that admits, like, yeah, this is me, I'm impure, that person's the one who's going to find themselves being purified, not the person who hides it. Letter B here. Here's another way, a practical way that you can pursue purity actively. Fill your mind with God's truths so that you're not searching to be filled with something else. This is a mistake so many people make, is that they're always trying to find, like, oh, I have this emptiness, I want to, maybe a relationship will fill me up. I'll feel better if I have someone else telling me how nice I am, or someone else that loves me and cares about me, because I feel lonely right now, right? If you're always searching for someone else, you're going to actually end up finding that other people are impure too, and that they can't clean you, or fill up your impure heart, make it pure. But if you're filling yourself over and over with what Jesus says about you, the truths of his word, right? If you're finding out, like, all right, I'm going to be told a lot of lies today. How do I counter that? I need to know what's true. I need to read this and understand it. I need to talk to people. I need to pray. I need to be at a church where I'm told the truth over and over again. If you're filling yourself up with those things, there won't be any room left for impurity to creep in. Here's a third one that's kind of related. Fight Satan's lies with truth, right? You're going to hear lies about purity over and over and over again. Hey, you know what? It's cool. Everyone can do this. Everyone's doing this. This is, that Christianity stuff is nonsense. Don't follow that. Lies over and over again. This is what Romans says about impurity and lies. It's pretty direct, actually. So this is talking about people who have lived their life in sin. They've really blown it in the purity area. God gave them up in the lust of their hearts to impurity, right? They're impure. They dishonored their bodies among themselves. That means it was sexual purity they were ruining. And here's why they did it. Because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie. Right? Here's the truth. They said, I'm not interested in that. They tossed it. They grabbed onto a lie. And it resulted in them living impure lives. So he says, believing lies is the cause of people who pursue after, chase after impurity. Right? So that means you have to know the truth, like I said a minute ago, and fill yourselves up with it over and over again. What does the Bible actually say about purity? What does God desire for my purity? And not just whatever what does that movie say? What does this singer say? What do my friends say? What do my teachers say? Like, well, I don't know, I'll take anything. No, you need to know the truth, otherwise you're going to fall for all the lies. And so you don't want to do that either. All right, so none of these things I put up here, by the way, back to A, B, and C, where are they? None of those things are stuff that you do it once and you're done with, right? Like I mentioned, you might have to return to the water over and over to keep getting cleansed. This is something that you do daily, regularly, the rest of your life. That's why my goal for this message was to pursue lifelong purity. Because this is something that it's not like, oh, I'm married, I'm done, I don't have to worry about it. Like, no, you need to continue doing this the rest of your life. And this particular truth I told you, the third one, that purity is not possible, or is only possible through Christ. It sounds like, aren't there other ways? This is actually really, really good news. And let me tell you 3 real quick reasons why this is really, really good news for you. One is that God can cleanse your impure heart before your impurity hurts you and hurts other people. Right now I told you all that all of us have impure hearts. Your heart is impure right now, and unless you're cleansed, you're going to make decisions in the future that will hurt you. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt other people. by living a life that's impure. And you have the opportunity now, before it really gets crazy difficult, you find the struggles all over, you have the opportunity to be like, you know what, I want to get rid of all this impurity, I want to be cleansed, I want to go to Jesus for purity, and you can actually save yourself a world of hurt by going to Jesus Christ for purity before you manage to hurt yourself or others with impurity. Another reason that this is really, really good news, and this is pretty heavy, so I want you guys to stick with me. It's a hard thing to hear or talk about, but I believe you're mature enough to handle this, is that statistically, people your age, there is, and I'm not thinking anyone particular here, but there is a high percentage of people your age who have been abused by someone, who've been sexually abused by someone. And it's an awful, wicked thing that can happen to someone, and people who have experienced that often feel like they're broken or damaged. Right? It's like, well, I have nothing good to offer the world anymore. I'm broken, right? I used to have purity, but then someone came along and ruined it, and now I've got nothing to offer the world. Well, Jesus Christ has good news for you, because let me tell you that you can come back to the source and be made pure, right? And Jesus' purity is something that no one can touch, right? No matter how wicked or evil a person is that may have hurt you, they can't touch Jesus' purity. They can't taint it. They can't make it dirty. There's no way they can get in here. Right? And so when you go back there, purity was never really in your hands to begin with. Purity comes from Jesus, and you can receive purity just like the rest of us. Just like anybody else. You're not damaged or weird or not good enough. You're on the same mission that the rest of us are. And that mission is to run to Jesus for purity over and over again the rest of our life, because he's someone who can actually make us pure. A third reason that this is really good news about Jesus is because there's absolutely nothing that Jesus' purity can't cure or cleanse in your life, right? I don't know what decisions you'll make in the future. Some of you, it's sad to say, some of you will make bad choices. Some of you will do dumb things in the future and find yourself compromising your purity, chasing after impurity instead of purity. But regardless of what you do, regardless of what you've done, what you're doing, any of that, none of you are incapable of being purified by Jesus. There's not a single person in here, whether they're older or younger, that has done something that's so dirty that Jesus' pure water can't cleanse them. Now, I showed you the example already, that, you just go to Jesus once and you're like, all right, I'm clean now, right? Like, oh, no, I'm still dirty. I knew you couldn't fix me, Jesus. I knew it. I'm still dirty. No, it's not an instant process. It often involves you returning to Jesus over and over, every single day, the rest of your life, confessing areas of sin, turning from them, coming back and being, Jesus, tell me the truth about myself. Jesus, make me purified. You're the only one who can do it. Over and over and over again. And you'll find that with enough rinsings, even this disgusting cup can be made perfectly clean and pure. Right? So it's really good news that Jesus is the source of purity and that you're not in charge of your own purity. You need to come back to him over and over again. So my challenge is this for you guys. Will you live a life that actively pursues purity? Sees it as something that you can't just sit around and have, but something you have to go after and say, I want that, and I want to get it from Jesus. Is that what you're going to do the rest of your life? That's the challenge. I hope this is a challenge for you. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about relationships, dating, and how purity plays into that specifically. But I'm going to pray here in a minute, and then before I dismiss you guys to your huddles, a few instructions. One, some of the leaders know you're going to different huddle rooms. I think you guys are in the same one. The boys are all in different rooms, but your leaders know where to go. You know where to go? You're over there. Okay. Because the high schoolers are in your huddle rooms right now. But after I finish praying, what I want you to do, I have lots of water bottles up here, and they all conveniently have the word purified on them. And it's circled, right? Now, it isn't just pure water. They're like, oh, we found this somewhere, and it was already pure. It specifically says purified. It was made pure. And through a process or something outside of itself. I want you all to grab a water bottle before you leave. There's some Sharpies up here. Just grab a Sharpie and put your initials on the top of it, right? I have SH on the top of this one. And I want you to take it with you. And I want you to think about it while you're drinking it later on, or every time you look at it, they're like, hey, I can be purified. I need to be purified. Regardless of what's behind me, I'm not pure on my own. I'm impure, and I need someone to purify me. but I can through Jesus Christ. So that's what I want you guys to do after I pray, and then you guys can dismiss to your huddles. Again, you'll be doing some tough topics, some hard questions. Try your best not to break the tension by joking, but be serious and honest and vulnerable and open and share things that are going on. Let me pray for us, and you will be dismissed. Lord, thank you so much for Jesus. I'm just reminded of how thankful I am that you have taken someone impure like myself and made me pure. And you're continuing to do so, Lord. I pray that you do that for all these students here. They would find themselves running to you over and over again, knowing that the only way they can achieve purity is if they chase after you to get it. Thank you that Jesus does that for us. Thank you for his death on the cross and how he saves us and how much good he gives us that we don't deserve. We love you, and it's because of Jesus we're able to pray. Amen. All right.